All right. Hey, everybody. I'm here with Nick Cannon from the Gauntlet team. Gauntlet just recently announced, I think in the last couple of months, that they're going to be working with both Karura and Acala on several of our DeFi kind of parameters and risk, the way we think about risk. So, Nick, do you want to get us started and kind of introduce yourself, talk about your role at Gauntlet, and we can go from there?
I can do that. Thanks.
Cool.
I lead growth at Gauntlet, which broadly means trying to find great ecosystems and projects in crypto and DeFi specifically, Karura and Acala being good examples to integrate with our platform. For background, Gauntlet's a platform for risk management and parameter optimization for protocols, like I mentioned, Karura and Acala. Our broad vision is to make this platform useful for off-chain intelligence to drive on-chain efficiency in DeFi. We think there will always be a place for this, no matter how cheap gas gets or how much solidity or code you can bake on-chain. There will always be a place for off-chain intelligence to improve and help assist with market risk to inform on-chain governance.
Awesome.
And we're very happy to sort of get on a new chain with Karura and Acala.
Yeah, and just to quickly introduce myself, so Dan Reeser, VP of Growth at Acala and Karura. For people's background, if Acala and Karura are new to you, Karura is a DeFi platform that we're building on Kusama, which is kind of Polkadot's experimental network. And then similarly, we're building Acala as a DeFi hub or DeFi platform on Polkadot. Both of these are layer 1 blockchains, so you can build applications on them. And our team has actually built our own applications on our blockchain. So a lot of these parameters and the work that we're doing with Gauntlet are for the DeFi applications that we've built on both Karura and Acala. So Nick, do you want to give us, I guess, a little bit more background on Gauntlet? Like, could you talk about how the organization got started and what kind of led to that?
Yeah, definitely. Tarun and Ray, the founders, come from traditional finance, sort of the background of hedge funds and trading, high frequency trading. And what they found, there's so many parallels between DeFi and these new ecosystems. While there's numerous different vectors and risk factors to consider, being on blockchains and being open and permissionless, there's a lot of parallels, and a lot of market risks translate quite nicely, at least cleanly, into what we're trying to solve and what we think the ecosystem should be broadly thinking about a bit more. So they started this Gauntlet a few years ago, doing a bit of like R&D in public, like everyone was doing in DeFi, trying to find out, how we could fit into this ecosystem, how governance work when it's on chain, how to upgrade protocols and parameters to make sure they're efficient. Risk-adjusted yield is tracking nicely with what the users are trying to achieve, and and to make sure insolvency is mitigated as best as possible. And we've evolved over time to being a bit more continuous, working on risk parameters, and this is the engagement we've set up with Karura and Acala.
Yeah, you guys have really kind of established yourself as a leader in this category, and I know you've been working with teams like Compound and Sushi and some of the other kind of blue chips in the space. Could you maybe give us a little bit more background on what you've done with those teams and current status on those projects?
Yeah, so when I say risk management, that is usually broadly overlaps with lending and liquidity protocols. They have collateral factors, loan to values, liquidation bonuses, and incentives to make sure the system stays solvent. And we make sure as the markets change, as slippage and pricing impact, and agents are doing different things on chain, those systems stay robust and efficient for all the users. On the Sushi Swap or DEX side of things, parameter optimization being either token emissions or dynamic trading fees, where as we know, the ecosystem is quite dynamic and things change all the time. Whether it's retail traders or arbitrageurs, we need to monitor those and make sure we understand how DEXs can grow. DEXs very broadly are trying to accrue liquidity, and then as a result get as much trading volume as possible. And we run continuous simulations for both types of protocols and others to make sure those are optimized for the objectives of the core and community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you mentioned continuous optimization. What's the process that look like then with working with those teams? Do you guys have team members that are kind of doing this stuff daily, or how often are you updating your recommendations to those protocols?
Very market dependent, but we are running simulations daily. So all of our data feeds are ingesting centralized data, decentralized data, anywhere that liquidity might happen. Acala and Karura is an interesting because I know you guys are building bridges to compound chain and other places where liquidity may be source for auction participants. So we have to think about how that impacts the ecosystem more broadly. So we do run those simulations daily. Sometimes, and very often, there's not a need to change the parameter recommendations, or there's small tweaks that aren't necessarily need to be pushed because it creates sort of a poor user experience. But when there is significant changes, we are able to update those pretty quickly to make sure the system stays, like I mentioned, robust and tracking towards the goals of the protocol.
Okay, cool. What about on the flip side? So if there's a protocol that doesn't work with you guys, what's the risk of not working with Gauntlet? Like what could happen? What does it kind of look like without your help?
Yeah, I mean, protocols have broadly, or a lot of protocols I talk to that at least come to us, understand this is market risk, or how they think about it is a bit outside of their wheelhouse. They're quite technical, very good at understanding the community and needs, building great product, even being engineers and developing Solidity or other on-chain protocols. But market risk is a whole different animal, separate from Oracle risk and security risk. But setting these parameters, whether, like I mentioned, collateral factors, liquidation thresholds, to be static at start is generally reasonable, and what most protocols do, right? They set them quite conservative and sort of hope for the best. But as you start to track towards hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, this either you set them too conservatively, and you're not efficient with the money, and the money might go elsewhere, or your users might go elsewhere. As I think everyone knows, this ecosystem, or these ecosystems, are quite competitive and moving quite quickly. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, you might want to come to us to try to make sure something is more capital efficient or risk-adjusted yield is considered, and then we can optimize those in a better fashion.
Okay, perfect. I want to transition to a little bit more focus on this kind of partnership with you guys. So for people's background, I mentioned Kusama and Polkadot, and I think maybe a quick kind of explainer on that before we go into this would be helpful. So what Kusama is, I mentioned, is an experimental network. And previously in Ethereum, for example, you would build on testnet, and then the next step would be to launch on mainnet. If something went wrong on mainnet, you kind of have to scramble and figure out what to do, because it's the first time you've ever experienced real value being kind of, funneled through the systems that you're building here and launching. What the team at Polkadot did is they created Kusama, which is basically a clone of Polkadot, but just optimized to move much faster. So the governance moves 4 times faster on Kusama. And it's meant for experimentation. And this is a step in between testnet and Polkadot. So you've got testnet with no value. You've got Kusama with significant value, I think around 1 to 2 billion now. And then Polkadot with about 10 times the value of Kusama. So what this allows teams to do, like Acala, we've built Acala for Polkadot, and that's kind of our Polkadot, our bank grade security network that will be working with institutions and so on. And then Karura is our Kusama network. So this is where we can experiment, we can launch new products with real value on Karura first. So with that background, Nick, could you talk around your decision to work with Kusama and Polkadot and Acala and Karura, and how this kind of setup of this new experimental network in between testnet and Polkadot kind of helps you guys with what you're trying to accomplish?
It aligns quite nicely. We're a simulation platform, and we model, we back test, and we calibrate, we refit. But jumping, to mainnet, which is broadly Ethereum today, is sort of a huge leap. We are quite confident. We've run tons of simulations, but that leap to no value to real value with actually, financially incentivized agents, what they'll actually do is quite different. I come from a background of playing with poker, and it's really tough to figure out what people will do with real money when you're just doing it with play chips. So that jump is huge. the Kusama Karura and what we're able to launch and provide parameter recommendations before going to Polkadot is quite exciting for us to be able to test with real value, empirically see what agents and how they're acting with the mechanisms, the oxygen participants and things on Karura before going to Polkadot and Acala. Then we can calibrate those a bit better and have real live data. As everyone knows, or maybe didn't know, we are trying to test and build heuristic models before Karura was live. So we're suggesting parameters for a protocol that is not live, which can be quite difficult. We're simulating what we think the agents will do. We have familiarity with Maker and other ecosystems that look pretty similar to CDPs. What that actually looks like and evolves into on-chain is interesting, and we are running our daily simulations to update those, and we will be prepared to change those quite quickly, but also change those for Acala and Polkadot going forward.
Yeah, so in theory, we're going to have much more data than you've probably maybe ever had going into a mainnet launch, because we have an entire months of transaction data, behavioral analysis of what people have done on Karura over time. So that should help with the Acala, making the Acala launch even more kind of optimized.
Yeah, more data is good for all the data scientists on the team.
Yeah.
It's much appreciated.
Can you talk in general then around your goals in working with Karura and Acala? What do you most want to accomplish?
We want to help this ecosystem grow safely. As I mentioned previously, the vision of the company is to have off-chain intelligence drive on-chain efficiency, and this is especially important for new DeFi hubs, new DeFi protocols, and especially new layer ones. How this grows is extremely important, and we think it can be done safely if we're monitoring these market risks and we let core team and the community focus on building out the product and the protocols and bridges and things of that nature. Helping that team grow, like I mentioned, but also Betty and Rutao and Brian want to appoint Gauntlet to be on the financial council, which we're pretty excited about. Outside of the initial scope of our arrangement, which is primarily around liquidation ratio, collateral ratios, liquidation penalties, and stability fees. But we can help assist and definitely have opinions on liquidity mining and other things that we know your ecosystem is going to be thinking about here in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's already a lot of governance discussions going on for these initial kind of launch pushes, and I'm sure it'll get more and more involved. So yeah, that would be great to have you guys involved. So besides the financial committee, what does it look like then in terms of Gauntlet's ongoing process with I guess Karura first? What can we expect? I know you said you'll do kind of daily simulations on your end, but anything more to add around what the ongoing process with Gauntlet looks like?
Yeah, so I mean, as your governance evolves, like every governance DeFi protocols evolves, we sort of stay closely attuned to that, whether it's communications, doing calls like this, but more actively in any sort of forum or Discord or wherever Karura and Acala community members and stakeholders exist to explain these things. We understand that market risk is quite the black box, and hopefully we can shed some light on that so participants understand it a bit better and are more comfortable with using these new applications on your network.
Yep. Well, awesome. We today we kind of intentionally avoided a lot of the kind of deep technical work that was kind of published in a couple of blogs that we put out around the relationship with Gauntlet and Karura. But I understand we're going to make another video after this, probably with you guys going more into your models and so on. So could you maybe just give everyone a preview around what to expect in the next video?
Yeah, definitely. Sean, our head of product, has built a great risk dashboard for for Karura specifically. Eventually, we'll convert this to Acala as well. This will have various market statistics and simulation statistics, heat maps, and all those fun things with good tooltips and explainers. So our recommendations that are parameterized and pushed on chain can be explained more in detail, and the stakeholders can understand this. Sean will record a dashboard demo and walkthrough, and we'll circulate that through all these channels as well, so people can understand how to think about these things and monitor them should they have positions or activity that themselves in any of the applications we touch.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Cool. So for everyone, we've mentioned a couple blogs, so I'll put those links in the description below the video, as well as maybe a link to follow Nick if you would like to, and Gauntlet's website and information will all be there. But thanks, Nick, for taking the time to explain everything to our community and to yours as well. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to minting some KUSD here soon.
Same here. All right. Thanks.